Okay, now we're recording. Okay. Yeah. So there is the what do you want to talk about today? It's really the
There, well, you know me, I'm chatty Matty, so I'm always down to talk. Um, but you invited us to this interview, so what's heavy on Lamar's mind? What do you want to talk to us about today, Lamar?
whew. Okay. Let's talk about Earth, Wind, and Fuego.
Okay.
Specifically, I am ready for uh I heard there was a meal prep in the works. Talk a
Yep.
little bit more about that.
Yes. So as you know, we actually, ironically, we started our company as a meal prep company. So when we first landed at Puff at the Poughkeepsie Underwear Factory, we were renting the kitchen very part-time for our meal prep needs. And then from there, one of my crazy ideas, but I had this idea of having a service and here we are. We are, it's June 2nd, 2020. We temporarily closed our doors for our cafe and our catering operations March 13th. Since then, we've been working very closely with all of our team members, helping them navigate resources. Jen and I have been really busy just working behind the scenes, like we always are, but just heavily working towards what this reopening or this pivot or this transition will look like. And we felt that just given our limited resources and really our people power right now, we felt that a meal prep venture would be best. It would allow us to promote a menu in advance. It would allow people to order. Our ordering would be informed as far as like our food, our supplies. It would be informed on the volume and people's response to this menu that we're going to be putting out really soon. So to just give us an opportunity to keep our brand relevant, get our food out to the people that support us, that love it, and also get some money hitting these books because we've been idle through our cafe and also our catering. And this is our busy season with graduations and weddings and things like that. So meal prep is coming up. We're going to be offering some delicious meals, partnering with North River Roasters, who was the first coffee roaster here in the city of Poughkeepsie, promoting their coffee, which is what we've used exclusively at our cafe, and also partnering with other small businesses, which we love to do, and promoting their baked goods in addition to our own. So keep an eye out for that. That's coming soon.
Yes. So, what what is the well? I know I could talk about food all day.
Me too. Don't get me started. It's early. It's too early for this, Lamar.
Well, how does the culinary world and the philosophy of love mix together?
Hmm. Take it away.
Um, I think there's a couple ways. The first thing that comes to mind is that when someone cooks with love, you can taste it. If you think about that person's food, that their rice doesn't taste like anybody else's rice, or whatever that meal that they make is, that just hits home. For me, my grandmother's chicken and gravy. Gravy's I've learned a very easy thing to make, but nothing will ever taste like my grandmother's chicken and gravy. You know what I'm saying? So you can taste the love in the food when people cook for us too. Besides that, what we really bring to the table is everybody on our team is a part of this mission of helping people who face barriers to employment. Maybe they had a workplace injury, or they have a disability that has made it very difficult for them to get back into work, or they were incarcerated and they're trying to find work after returning home, and all kinds of reasons that make it difficult for people. But not only are people who are on our team now have come through that program, but also now they're a part of that mission too, because everything that they do is helping this company continue so that we can create more jobs, train more people, and hire more people here in the city of Poughkeepsie. And that's what that's about. And you can taste that in the food too.
And also wanting to add on to that, just that this company has been a labor of love from the beginning. I mean, for me, growing up in a historical port city, similar to Poughkeepsie in so many ways. You know, I grew up in Perth Amboy, New Jersey, knowing that I loved to cook and loved food. That's why I said it's too early for this, Lamar, because we could talk about food all day. And I grew up, I grew up in in a household full of people, but also in a very small and humble environment, in the sense that food really brought us together. Whether my mom made rice and fried eggs, or whether she made, our favorite meals, and there were several courses on the table, regardless of what was presented, what was prepared, it was always prepared with love, from a place of love, and to really nurture us, way beyond like just nourishment. And just thinking about our company, it was really this vision, my dream of having a restaurant, my dream of really putting my energy into the culinary field, and it was really my partner in life and in love that supported that vision and that dream. So this entire company has been a labor of love, and for me, that's the most, it stands out in all we do, regardless of the transitions from day one to present day.
Can you elaborate on because I know we talked yesterday about legislation and enacting permanent systemic change. But what on my mind right now is like this power of food, and what specifically can food do that nothing else could deliver, maybe on the size of impact, or like, I mean, basically, what can food bring to society that nothing else can, except life, because you have to eat.
To me, I'm thinking it can bring just varying levels of healing, from just the creativity with working with the ingredients, preparing that. It can bring togetherness. When we're in the kitchen, there's not one chef. There's every single person that's contributing to that meal. When a customer comes into our cafe, when we have a customer that's picking up or they're being delivered a catering order, it's not just what they're receiving as a final product or what's on their dish. It's not the result of one person's work. And, just starting from, understanding that the root of all we do comes from a place of love, in and outside of the kitchen. And, from the preparation of the food, how are we washing it? How are we preparing it? If someone's not, it's nourishing. Yes, we need it. It's vital. It's important to our vitality, overall health and wellness. And what we put in our bodies really does play out, right? It's manifested in our emotional health and our physical health and our mental health. So food is important, yes, but that doesn't mean that all food are healing, right? And I think that there is an essence of, for me, just that nourishment, the nourishment of the nourishing the body, nourishing the mind, nourishing the soul. That's what we're doing, again, in and out of the kitchen when we're working with food, regardless of the ingredients, regardless of where we've harvested or sourced it from. The intention of what we're getting and why we're getting it and what we're preparing, again, it starts from a place of love, and it's carried throughout until that meal is announced to someone eating at our cafe or whomever is our catering client that day or for that event. Want to add something to that?
I think you really hit it.
Apparently I hit it, Lamar.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And I also just want to say, there's moments, I'm just going to give you an example. So one of our most popular, and you, like, as you're zooming through, just made me think of that. But there was like a picture of this bowl of soup. And when we first started at the Poughkeepsie Underwear Factory, up right there, when we started at the Poughkeepsie Underwear Factory, we reached out to local food movers and makers and doers. And one of those folks was Dutch's Outreach. And we had an agreement with Dutch's Outreach. We were getting produce from them. And this is produce that is being grown literally a couple blocks away from our facility at the Poughkeepsie Underwear Factory, over by the Partnership Building. And I'll never forget this, but we had no employees at the time, but we had two folks that were training with us through the training program, again, through our collaboration with Hudson River Housing. And we got, I want to say 30 pounds of tomatoes. And let me tell you, it was like a Thursday. And in my mind, we were open only Monday to Friday. And in my mind, I'm like, what am I going to do with all of these tomatoes? Because they're going to go bad if I don't use them. And this woman, her name is Deborah. She was training with us at the time. And she said, well, why don't you make tomato soup? And I was so intimidated by that question because, growing up in a Dominican household, I never ate tomato soup. I would hear things about tomato soup, and I saw the cans of tomatoes, Campbell's soup on the shelves, but that was never something that I've ever eaten, that I ever had in my household. And there was a part of me that was like intimidated with saying like, I don't know how to make tomato soup. And then it was like the moment that feeling came up, I was reminded about the fact that it was okay for me to share that vulnerability and that feeling of intimidation. And I'm like, Deb, can you walk me through making a tomato soup? She's like, yeah. And I looked up a quick recipe, and just with her guidance and intuitively, we put together this soup. And I got to tell you, it is that soup alone. And we're talking about love, or we're talking about what food brings to the table, pun intended. That soup is a very small example of that, of combining all of those things. And I want to say all of your questions at this point, that soup, every single time I make it, I'm reminded of this woman. Every single time I make it, I'm reminded about the fact that it's okay to not know it all. What was that?
And when we teach it.
And when we teach it, when we pass it down to the youth, to whoever is working at our company, we share that story. And every single person, the recipe is the same, but every single person adds something different. And it's amazing. I mean, I've had people prepare this soup and it tastes better than mine, and that's okay, because we want that too. We want our food to be a reflection of where we're harvesting from, who we're supporting, who are the people preparing it. We want people to walk away when they eat this soup. Yes, I want them to say that's the best tomato soup that I've ever had in my life. That's great. But it's not just, it's not just great from an ego's perspective. It's great because it really highlights who we are as a company, our mission, our ability to continue to carry out that lesson, if you will, of just starting from where you're at and being open to learning and working together. And that soup is like anti anything. I mean, I've had people come in and they're like, I'm just really stuffy or whatever it is. And if we got the soup, I'm like, just have a bowl of this soup. And if you don't feel better, like, I've sometimes even offered it at no cost. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in Poughkeepsie that can say I was one of those people, but they'll come in and they're like, I'm not really hungry, haven't eaten anything, or don't have my debit card, whatever it is. And I'm like, have this bowl of soup, and next time you're in, just pay it forward to someone else, or we got you. We're not going anywhere. But the soup is really going to help you. And they trust us and they take it. And they walk out, it's like a 10-minute thing, and they walk out and they're breathing clearer. So it's an amazing soup, and it's the most simplest ingredients and simplest recipe. But it's just so full of love, and it's heavy, it's full, it's dense, and you can taste it, It's a beautiful thing, and it's onions, garlic, and tomatoes. I mean, and a whole bunch of seasonings. I'm not going to say that's just it, because the food got flavor. But what I'm saying is that it's definitely, it's simple, and there's so much joy and healing and comfort and trust that can be built in everyday simplicity. And this recipe is no far from that.
That's so interesting that on the idea of simplicity and the natural vitamins and nutrients that you get from the soup, that it's declogging natural sicknesses.
Yeah.
And just to say a story, actually yesterday, before we talked, went to the corner store because I myself am scared to cook, and it's always this thing of I have to eat out, and then that builds another form of food insecurity. Mm-hmm. And then But this is so I go to the river and then I go to the corner store and I'm just like, what do I get to eat? And then I'm going and I'm looking and I'm like, sugar, 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 alcohol, 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 alcohol.
Translation, hypertension, cholesterol, heart disease, diabetes.
And
Okay, what were you saying?
and and so I'm just like, you know what? I'll just get some water and I have to search through the whole store and there's two waters in the corner, the back corner, basically in the stock room. And I'm just like,
Mm,
wow.
right.
And it's just like, just looking at that and saying, even if like I wanted to eat something that was at least, not gonna put me through it and get me groggy, and it wasn't there. And it's
Mm.
just like, what, how does, what instances of food insecurities or how has Earth, Wind, and Fuego positioned, like even that story with the tomato soup, it's like, uh not saying why is it built like that, but what can I do specifically to never have to, depend on a corner store for food?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And I may not have all of the answers about how that would happen for you, but here's what I would say generally. I think that every person needs to reevaluate their relationship with food. I think what you shared is a really perfect example of what many people do, whether they're going down to the river or whether they just left work and need to pick me up before their 40-minute commute, right? Like people are hungry and they want to eat. And yeah, so many people can relate to that experience because I have too, where I'm walking to a corner store because I want something. I just want just something to pick me up because I know that I'm not going to be able to eat a full meal, right? Until I get home, until I get to my next destination. But I'm surrounded by chips, or I'm surrounded by sugar. I'm surrounded by, high sodium, high sugar, just low nutrient dense foods. And in a moment of just wanting to get something into our systems, I may pick up, and on top of that, I also have dietary restrictions. I am gluten free. So that just creates another layer. I'm not going to be able to pick up, that coffee cake or whatever it is. But I think that first we need to reevaluate our relationship with food. There are some people that enjoy cooking. There are some people that don't like to cook. There are some people that are just intimidated because they don't really know. They may not have all the supplies, right? They may not have the things that they need to put meals together. They don't know where to start. And I feel that feeling, because I was at that place at one point too. And I feel that from my experience, that is very overwhelming. And it's easier to order out and potentially eat the same thing over and over again because, your body responded well to that last takeout order than it is for you to actually try. Like I shared earlier, we started off as meal prepping and we were really providing this convenience to people from all walks of life. Young people, people that were working, people that were busy, that had children, that didn't have children. Some people even still in high school. Like we were working with a couple of juniors and seniors in high school because, parents were busy, caregivers were busy, whatever the case may be, and they wanted to eat and they didn't want the Hot Pockets. They didn't want, the pizza rolls and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just really reevaluating your relationship with food. And as you're going through that evaluation process, like where are you at? Where do you fit with that? Are you someone that is interested? Are you someone that is available to learn? And just asking yourself for that. We're definitely, here in the city of Poughkeepsie, we are folks that are willing and able to provide classes. Obviously, at this time, that looks very different. And Lamar, we've had conversations about actually, in addition to our meal prep pivots, excuse me, we were even speaking about like, how do we tap into this virtual new world and still offer these resources that are really important, including the cooking classes, including just including just maybe just watching me cook in the kitchen or whatever that is. But those resources are available. And sometimes it's just a conversation or just starting with one recipe. I actually have a client right now, and she must have prepared this meal, this one meal, like 8 times. And she's like, I am just having so much fun with this meal because she can cook it at this point from start to finish without looking at that recipe, right? So this person feels empowered. She's like, I'm kind of getting sick of eating the same thing, but I just love the fact that I'm the person behind the scenes. I'm the person preparing it. I bought the products. And looking at this recipe and other recipes that you've shared with me, I realized that I have a lot of these spices or things already in my pantry. And it's, again, her relationship with food is evolving and continuing to evolve. And she's feeling a little bit more comfortable in her kitchen environment because she is really taking in her surroundings. And that anxiety or whatever was coming up for her before, that resistance on just even wanting to get in the kitchen, that wall is just dissolving as she's working through her relationship with food, and really working through it.
What are some good information outlets to start off, the first step of just, this is bad, this almost a list, like a nutrition guide almost?
Yeah. I think every person should really just start like a piece of paper, your notes on your phone, an email to yourself. Just start with, what are the foods that you like right now? And what are the foods that you don't? And what are the foods that you've known, but you've never tried, right? I don't like eggplant. I don't like eggplant. Not realizing that my mom used to make berenjena guisada, which is like a stewed eggplant dish, as I was a young girl. I never knew that it was eggplant because I wasn't actually looking at the food. Like when my mom prepared this meal, the berenjena guisada, it didn't look like the eggplant vegetable, right? So for me, I always knowed eggplant, not knowing that I ate that growing up, and it wasn't until a couple years ago, believe it or not, that my mom taught me that recipe. And
Can you spell that for me?
berenjena.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. VERENJENA. Oh, and it's B like boy, not V like Victor. I'm just going to tell you right now, Lamar, you're not going to find my mama's recipe on the World Wide Web. Okay? You're going to find that in my cookbook, which is not complete yet. So let's backspace. But yeah, berenjena, that is eggplant. And there's so many different ways that you can prepare it. And the berenjena guisada is actually going to be like the second thing on their videos. So if you just go down, this is like a stuffed eggplant. But there's so many different ways that you can prepare it, just like any other vegetable, just like any other fruit, right? Yeah, it is. It's making me want to call up my mama. But again, there's so many different ways that you can prepare it. And for whatever reason, I just said, I don't like it. And it wasn't until and just having, honestly, a conversation with my mom about food. And she was like, what do you mean you don't like eggplant? You used to eat berenjena guisada all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know. Mind you, my first language spoken was Spanish. I didn't even know that that's what it was. And it was just like my own eye-opening of wait a second, I actually love eggplant because that's one of my favorite dishes. So I think it's just starting a very simple thing. Before we get caught up with the this is bad and that's good, let's not label our foods. Let's really think about, what is our relationship with food? What do we actually enjoy? What do we don't? And also, let's go back to the things that we said we'll never eat because it's nasty, it's yucky, it don't look right, it don't smell right. Let's go back to those foods that we're saying we don't like, and let's explore what are the different ways that we can have them. Or could it be that the foods you absolutely love already have some of those foods in them? In preparing your food and planning for what these meals are, you learn a little bit more about each ingredient. And that's the power with you being behind the stove or in front of the stove. That's the power that you have. There is no questioning about I'm feeling kind of sick, I just ordered out. And it's great. Being in the food and beverage industry, we want the support. We want folks to eat out. There's so much culture and community building in food, with food. So we want that, but we also want to empower folks to say, you can do this too. Even for our meal prep clients, the goal is not to have clients the same clients for the entire time. The goal is that we are helping them and identifying what their relationship with food is, helping them detox. For many of the folks we're working with, they have food allergies or restrictions and sensitivities. So we're really helping them with that. And we're just really wanting them to learn more. And it goes from them getting prepared meals to them saying, oh my God, my family or we just love such and such dish. Can you share, can you help me make that? And we will, we'll share recipes. We'll really help them. Sometimes we've done pantry takeovers, which, some people will say, I actually eat really healthy. I actually eat really good. And again, eliminating those labels, but really helping people understand what they're putting inside their bodies. And that's really important. And it's also, I would say, a very intimate process as well.
So it sounds like the process of cooking is binded with being personal with the opposite end.
Yeah. And we want, cooking is not for everyone. Not everyone wants to cook. I love to cook. I love to eat, but there are also moments where I don't want to cook, and that's okay. And if there's a lot going on in my life, I might just take a good 3 hours on a Sunday or an hour and a half on a Sunday and meal prep a couple dishes so that I can prepare myself for those busy days ahead, or maybe those moments of I'm really tired, I don't want to cook today. Or it doesn't even have to be being tired. It's just I really want something other than my food. However, just being in front of that stove, being at the grocery store, and just being mindful about what you're getting, it really helps. And I do find that, just going back to your question earlier, the first thing anyone should do when they're wanting to explore or just think beyond their current present situation with food is just starting with that list. What do I really love? And just start with one recipe, and just start from there, because it's not all going to come overnight. It still hasn't for me. And there's recipes that I love that I can literally do, off the top of my head within a very little time. And I also remember, in retrospect, when I picked up that recipe, or when I first learned that technique, where it took me a very long time. And I'm also a very messy cook. I need everything in my cabinets and all my pots to boil water. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm a messy cook. But everyone has their own thing. And it's very therapeutic for me. I'm just going to ask you to go back, because that is Sylvia's mac and cheese, and I miss that woman's food. I miss that woman's food. And this is, I just want to sit on this, and I'm probably rambling, but Sylvia is one of our employees. And she's been in the food industry all of her career, all of her life. And her journey really started with assisting her grandmother when she was a little girl. And I remember and sharing with her just our experiences about being gluten-free and things like that. She's learned so much more about food and being a part of our team. And, during this quarantine, there was one day she texted me and she's like, hey, what's the brand of that gluten-free pasta that you can have? And I thought it was odd, because I know that Sylvia is not gluten-free. And she ended up then preparing a tray of macaroni and cheese with gluten-free pasta for Jen. And they had a private conversation, but she reached out to me wanting to know what the brand is. And why do I share that? Because here's this woman who has been in the food industry for her entire life, who's learning of vegan and gluten-free, and having conversations and being able to teach and talk about nightshade vegetables, right? This is all of the learning that she picked up in her cooking and creating, but it involved her to reevaluate her relationship with food and really create space and welcome the fact that there was knowledge and information outside of her own experiences. And she took that in, and now she's able to not just deliver all of the amazing foods that she prepares, but really do that from a health conscious perspective, right? So she's just, I don't even know where to start, but this woman is phenomenal, and she throws down in the kitchen. And let me tell you, Sylvia knows what the hell she's doing. I don't even know how else to say that. But she's an amazing cook. And I just, even in preparing foods for our company, you know, with our Fiesta Friday, she takes over and she's like, wait a second, if there's X percentage of our folks that don't eat, you know, pork, I'm going to make my collard greens with smoked turkey necks. Like she, and again, in her own learning and really taking in all of what she's learning and all of what she already had, right? Like just her own experience and knowledge and expertise. She's able to combine the new and the old and still deliver amazing foods. And on top of that, not just deliver a final product that is nourishing, but also the education behind that. And that speaks volumes about what one is capable of doing when they're open to new information and willing to adapt that. And Sylvia's done it in her kitchen and our commercial kitchen. We've done it in our own kitchens, and the people that we work with individually do it every day, you know, but it really just starts with that. What do you like? What do you don't? And what are you wanting to learn now? And then just before you know it, you start with one recipe and now you got 10. And then a couple months down the line, you're just whipping it up in the kitchen. And that's it, you know?
Can you tell me more about the team? Because these stories are like everything.
Yeah.
That's because it's not
Let me
just
tell you,
stories. A
it's
life.
not just stories, and these stories are not everything. These people are everything. And I can start, but I'm just gonna put it out there. Might get a little emotional because I haven't seen my peeps in a while. No, but I love every single one of our team members, and this is coming from someone that also works really heavily on boundary setting with our team, and they know that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're cracking up when they see this, because they're going to be like, yep, that is Madeline. But I love our team members. Our first employee was Manny. This is the first individual that graduated the training program, which we collaborate with Hudson River Housing with. And he is, I don't even know how to put it. We call him our OG because he's been there from the beginning. So many of our systems and the way that we do things really come from his innovative and creative spirit. He's like the MacGyver of the group. Like if there is something wrong, he's going to find a way to fix it. And I'll give you like an example of it. So we had, you know, in the beginning of our company, in the beginning of our journey at the Poughkeepsie Underwear Factory, like obviously we're like building up our inventory, supplies, and equipment. And one of the first things that we bought to help us with our prepping was a tomato slicer. And it's about, well, you can't really see, it's about scale, but it's pretty big. And it has like a handle that you push in, but the actual, it's not like a flat bottom. So it's like 4 legs. And the racks that we have, obviously it's not like a solid surface. So like sometimes in like pulling out the tomato slicer, the legs will get stuck in like the openings of the racks. And one day we're like, where the hell is Manny? But Manny was in the back. I thought he was taking out garbage, but Manny was actually in the back cutting up a box to create like, it was like the perfect fit. And we still have this box to this day. But he was just like literally making something out of nothing. Like this was a box that we were going to get rid of, and he was literally taking his time measuring things out, just so everything was just so precise, because he wanted to make sure that we had something that would like hold this tomato slicer so that it would be easier for us to pull out when we need it, safe, it wasn't going to get stuck. And you know, in Manny's words, everything is science and every minute counts. So I'm not sure that can say, or that can really describe Manny, but you know, we call him our OG because that's really who he is. He's got an opinion about just about anything and everything, and that's okay, because our environment isn't sterile, and we really invite, we want people to just highlight it, make it bigger if you could. No, but he's really, he's got something to say for just about everything, and he is someone that will ensure that he's being heard. And that's okay, because everyone is entitled to take up space, and everyone is entitled to share their opinions and their thoughts. And that's who we are as people, supervisors, employers. Most importantly, that is like the core of who we are as a company. And He's been with us since the very beginning. And there's moments where like me, Manny, and Jen will like look at each other and we're like, do you remember when? And it'll be something like when we didn't have this, or like when we used to do this and now here we are. And I always like to go back to that because, you know, there's experiences that Jen and I can talk about and that we can reflect on. But to be able to share that with someone outside of our bubble, and to know that this person has grown with our company and with us, as supervisors, as employers, as a company, you know, it means a whole lot more. It's one thing to share your business history with a new team member or with this team, but it's another thing to be able to talk about that and process that together, and to have open conversations about how we can continue to grow with someone that's like literally has been there from the beginning. But Manny he's an artist. He is a songwriter. He sings. He's a poet. He's a great person, and we're honored to have him on our team. He is also, you know, he is a veteran. And in the beginning, I think it was the first Memorial Day or maybe the first Veterans Day, one of those two. But I remember like thanking him for his service, and he's like, and trust, he didn't just tell me this. I was there. And he's like, yeah, it was Veterans Day. And he's like, I gotta tell you something, you know, I appreciate that, but I need you to understand, I'm not a Vietnam veteran. I am a Vietnam era veteran. And let me tell you why that's different. And that sticks out to me because it was the first time that I took that in. I didn't learn that in my history books. I remember Vietnam War, but it was just the era. And I have someone like Manny on my team that is not just sharing his experience, but that wisdom. And you can't buy that. You're not going to get that in an Audible. You're not going to get that in a history book. You're not going to get that from anyone else, and from someone that's been in that situation and that has lived through that experience. So there's so much learning that I've picked up. There's so much wisdom that is not just my own, that I carry proudly from so many stories of the people that contribute to our company, and Manny is one of them.
Wow, that's quite a team member. Like super. It's like if you would just took out his name and put Batman, it would kind of be.
I think he would really like that. I think he would really like that. I'm going to tell him that you said that. And he's going to love you extra.
Yeah, no, that really does sound like Batman.
Wait, we can't skip Sylvia.
No, we're talking about Sylvia.
We did speak about Sylvia, but I just want to be able to say I can't just pass by her because she is great. And I feel really connected to each one of our team members, and there is such a beautiful connection. There's so much magic shared in the kitchen with Sylvia and outside of the kitchen. And I just want to say I've never met someone that is, we actually call her, and maybe I need to change it from like prep cook / social worker, and not because of academia, but just transformational, just what she brings to the table. I just want to say something about Sylvia. If you are looking for a resource, or you have some kind of situation that needs to be navigated, do not think twice before reaching out to Sylvia. Sylvia is so resourceful, and it doesn't matter what it's about. Like, we've had Sylvia come to, I'll never forget this. And I remember and thinking about it, I'm getting really emotional, but yep, it's coming. We had, one of our partnerships with Hudson River Housing is that we also serve as a host business for the Youth Leap program, which employs City of Poughkeepsie youth from ages 16 to 24. And we had 2 youth working with us last summer. And one of those young women, I don't want to diminish their role as women, but one of those young women had 2 younger siblings that were starting school. And this young woman shared a lot about her life and history, but I'll never forget this gesture. But basically, Sylvia's like, I'm gonna go outside, but this is not my break. I need to go get something in my car for this person. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Do whatever you gotta do. And she comes back in, and she literally had put together like backpacks for this person, for her younger siblings, like full of notebooks, like full of supplies. And I'm not just talking about a notebook and crayons that are going to break the moment you press on them. Like, I'm talking about like these kids were hooked up. And I'm like, Sylvia, where did you get this from? And you know, and she just spoke about the fact that she knew of a distribution that was happening, and she literally stood in line and did what she had to do for this youth, her team member in the company. And that sticks out to me because that wasn't asked of Sylvia. She didn't have to do that. But it's just a very, and when I say small, it's just like a little small example of where this woman's heart is at and where it will continue to be, because she's that person. And it just brought me so much joy, because it also, to me, I remember like having to go to the bathroom and I just cried it out because I was so happy, but just so many emotions came up. And I remember just sitting there and processing that. And I've had conversations with Jen and other people about this. But to me, it also says so much about the environment that we continue to foster, about the fact that she felt comfortable enough and safe enough to know that this was not a problem and that this is actually encouraged. You know, it's very often that we'll bring in resources or tangible items to share with our team and to encourage them to share with whoever they know, because that's who we are. And just to see that play out so freely, so genuinely, and just seeing Sylvia show up time and time again, authentically herself, to do what she does is great. And to see that in a place of work is like mind blown. So just wanted to say that.
Yes. Whew. So,
Bobby.
Jen, could you tell me a story?
It's so funny how you said Jen.
Bob is a ball of amazing joy and energy. He's always bringing positive energy and just like love and happiness, like just always. He always shows up that way, even if something happened on his way to work or is going on in his life that isn't great. He's able to hold space for all of those feelings and never loses sight of what there is to be happy about. And that's a beautiful thing that Bob brings to the table, because we all need that. You know, we all need that reminder sometimes. And so he's really like that balance for our team. And I mean, everybody loves Bobby, you know, and he's, oh man, he's always dressed on point. Everything matches, from his hat all the way down to his shoes. Everything matches. He's always looking sharp. He's always comes in ready to work. Takes his role seriously. And he's got an amazing stories that he always shares about previous careers. He worked as I don't even know how to say the word, arborist, I think is the word, but he used to, for over 20 years worked like diagnosing issues with trees and doing landscaping and all of this, outdoor work. Yeah. So he has an amazing knowledge for that. He's also a musician. He's a singer. Yes, I like to say he's a singer-songwriter. He's still working on it, but he's performed a few times at our Fiesta Fridays, some poetry and some songs, and he's sung there as well. He writes his own work too, I think, like Madeline just said. And he was in a band many years ago. He's a veteran as well. So he's just got amazing stories, amazing energy. Just, you can't help but smile when Bobby's there.
And even when he's sharing, there's something so beautiful about Bobby. Even when he's sharing about something heavy, he says it with so much grace. It's like, even if you're feeling down, you feel lifted at the same time. When we had, at our couple Fiesta Fridays ago, at this point, he came to me and Jen about wanting to know, he wanted to share with us what his plans were with a piece that he had written. And we were like, you can share whatever you'd like. And this piece, I think it was called 1942. No. Okay. I don't want to butcher the title of his work, but I am going to tell you that this piece was actually inspired when he learned as a young Black man the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. And he shared his story about like being on the ship and how a lot of the Black men at the time, like none of the Black people knew, like the Black folks were not informed about the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. on his ship. And then when he finally learned, the only thing, like he was voiceless, but the only thing that he was able to write was just his piece. And it was a beautiful poem that was just so symbolic to his time and his experience then. And we were like, Bob, you like, thank you for coming to us and asking us, but of course we're not going to say no to that, and you can share whatever you like. But I share that because he is the type of person, he just comes to us with so much experience and knowledge and wisdom. And when I say experience, I'm not just talking about his work with trees and landscaping or even being a performer or performing at the Met. I mean, this man has a story for just about everything. I mean, he was a lifeguard, and like, he is just like, I wish that I can just like put on the TV and be able to click on Bob and just hear about like another chapter or another time of his life, because he just the stories that live in his mind, the stories that are so close to his heart are really just so inspiring. And just from me, as a 33-year-old woman who has never lived through any of his experiences or anyone else's, I learned so much. I learned so much from people like Bob, and all the others that we've spoken about. So it's, I mean, it's free education for me. It's more wisdom. It's continuing to strengthen my spirit and inspire me to just think bigger and think broader, so that we can continue to enhance what it is that we provide in our company and also in our community. Yeah, I feel like I need to take a deep breath, Lamar. Now I'm thinking about Bobby. But no, he's great. You know, he's great. He came through the training program, and at the time, I'll never forget this. He's like, I just want, first I want something to do, and I just need a couple bucks. And throughout that training program, it was more than that. It was like I looked at Jen at one point and I was like, I feel like he's already like, we have to hire Bob. I don't know how, I don't know what we need to do, but we need to go back to our numbers. We need to really look at financial projections. Like, what do we need volume to look like for the next couple months so that we can make enough to hire this man, make a position for him. And it doesn't matter what you ask him to do. He's going to do it. He's going to wash dishes. He's going to make you a drink. He's going to clean. He's going to do whatever it is, because that is who Bobby is. And he's an amazing person. And we're so honored to have him as a part of our team.
Well, I hear the stories just get more in depth and more in depth. I'm just like,
I know you said this is an interview, but we got a lot of material here. We might have like an Earth, Wind, and Fuego series going. I don't know.
yeah,
But
I was
everyone's
gonna say,
more than stories here. This is love,
So
Lamar.
Kelly, oh man.
yes. Tell me about Kelly, because I actually don't know anything about Kelly. So this is completely.
Okay. All right. So I'll tell you about Kelly. So Kelly came in and she taught us that we needed a bakery assistant because that was a position we didn't have before. And she was really interested in baking. She likes to bake, you know, on her own. She really enjoys that. She never really baked from scratch before. And so I worked with her a little bit. Some people have more interest in the cooking. Some people have more interest in the baking. You know, everybody's different. And you know, as you know, we have our really popular carrot cake muffins, and some of our other baked goods that people love, like our banana walnut breads and different things. So, you know, we definitely have a need for baking. And she really came in and she picked up everything really quickly. And she is something with baking, especially baking from scratch, is you have to be very meticulous with your measurements. You know, it's not like when you cook, you can just, if you add something I learned, if you add a little too much salt to a soup, you can put some water in it to kind of balance it out. You can't do that with baking. If you put too much baking soda, you can't do something to balance it out. Your whole batch is ruined, you know. So you have to be very meticulous with it. That's why most people are really good at one thing and not the other, because it's a different skill set. But she came in, she's very meticulous, very serious about it. And she like was always, she's on it. She's on all of it. I mean, she blew me away with just, she started to quickly like memorize the recipes and the way that sometimes you have to convert things from smaller measurements to higher measurements. And she just ran with it, and she loves it. And every single thing she baked, Lamar, it came out perfect, amazing. And like I mean, it takes, every part of the process requires you to be paying attention and to be, really on it, including the bake time.
Almost like being like a scientist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the more and more this happened at the same time that we started getting more and more busier. And so I was really like, had to just be like, hey, Kelly, it got to the point where I was like, all right, so here's what we're going to bake today. And then sometimes I'd be pulled away into something else, and she would just run with it, and it would be boom, perfect. And we were like, whoa, oh my goodness, we also need to make sure Kelly stays with us.
And I want to add to that, we started this company. I don't know what we were, mainly I was thinking at the time, thinking that just two people were going to be able to run an entire business. What Jen taking orders and me cooking and prepping and all of that. But at the time, we were not as busy, and slowly but surely, this training program grew. We met a lot of different people, including people like Kelly, and everyone walked away. First of all, no one ever wanted to leave the training program. No one ever did. And, it got to the point that when we started going, we started to get busy, and then it was like, oh, we're going to bake now because we want to provide, clean, like vegan, gluten-free baking or goods. And it became a little bit too much for us, because we'll be in the middle, Jenna will be in the middle of baking and then be pulled away for something else. And that was just a true testament to where we were at and getting busy. So when Jen says, Kelly made us realize we needed a baking assistant, it wasn't until Kelly showed up. And this was someone who was having issues with converting measurements, right? Like what do 3 teaspoons translate into? What does, things like that. Struggled with timing and temperature. And I want to say that Kelly came in with very little foundation of what it took to bake. And but had the desire
to learn, just like we kind of spoke about with Sylvia. I'm going to cut you off, but I just feel like I want to add to what you're saying, like that willingness to know what you don't know, and that's huge. And the willingness to ask questions when you don't know. You know, and we always say, like, please don't feel bad about asking questions, because that's the way you learn. No one knows everything.
And that's really what was great about Kelly, just the fact that, she wanted to learn how to bake from scratch and wanted to work with, just so excited. I remember the first time even learning how to use the food processor, right? So they're not just baking, they're open to learning about different equipment, different supplies, different tools that you need to really execute this order or execute this dish. But I remember the first time she shredded, 20 pounds of carrots. From peeling the carrots to shredding the carrots. I mean, the poor woman's hands were orange. But after that, she was really excited. She was just so excited to be like, wow, this is really what you do for carrot cakes. I didn't know that. So just, to be a part of that experience from beginning to end. And it was a no-brainer. I mean, after seeing all of what she learned, she was committed to the work and really helped us create this new position that we didn't think we needed, because, we were busy kind of doing everything we could. But, at the end of the day, it's not feasible. And when you have folks, when you're learning, when you're growing, learning from your mistakes, for Jen and I, we continue to do that. And although we're a very small business, our team is mighty. I was going to say something I probably should have, but just very, very mighty. And they're committed. And, when you see that, when you have people showing up day in and day out, just doing and learning and just contributing, not just to what they're doing, like the task at hand, but just the overall growth of our team. There's no denying that. There's no turning away from that. There's no way you can't, take a chance, take a risk. And we took a chance. We created a position that she's defined, that she continues to, that she made her own, and well deserved at that. And we've been able to grow as a business with our offerings and really keep up with the volume at the time. Obviously, COVID created havoc here, but other than that, I mean, we are who we are, and the quality is the same, and the foods are delicious, and it's because Kelly shows up and she, you see her bopping away and dancing as she's mixing and measuring, and it's the cutest thing in the world, because this was also someone that was very shy, very soft-spoken, very to herself, and she has blossomed right before our eyes. And sometimes I mean, her voice is very distinctive, so I'm like, did Kelly really say that? Kelly really said that. And it makes me laugh because again, it's just a true testament of how comfortable she feels and safe, and that's really important, because comfort and safe are two different things. But just how she can continue to show up and be herself and do her job. And it is her job, and it is all her own, because she's created that for us at our company.
Ooh. You know what? This is kind of. I know we should make a group photo. It's gonna be a group photo, right? And it's gonna be everybody's like face switched out with the Avengers.
I love it.
Yeah, that's it. That's it right there.
Oh, Christina.
Yeah.
Christina is what's the word I'm searching for? She's a staple at the Poughkeepsie Underwear Factory. And she was just saying this the other day, like, her role has changed so many times there, but she is just along for the ride. She's really committed to what the original mission of the underwear factory was. She started there as a barista with North River Roasters when they were operating a coffee shop out of there, and that's how we first met her. And then she was with Hudson River Housing doing that, as well as social media, and just this past year officially joined the Earth, Wind, and Fuego team, and also is a barista with us and does a lot of our social media, as well as doing a lot of our social media as well. And she's just a ball of energy and knowledge, and she's always like ready to go. She's that very Capricorn, which I love, energy, in case she watches this. And she's actually like knows a ton about nutrition. She's like got a lot of things that she does on the side. She's really into being really physically active and physical health and nutrition, and how that contributes to your overall health, which is so aligned with our mission. And so we've really learned a lot from her in so many ways. And she is really passionate about I don't know how to put this right, but about the quality of barista work and of the outcome of the beverages, about making sure that things are roasted appropriately, things are that everything is measured out and done meticulously, and that makes sure that that we're up to par with the quality. She's it's not just like about enforcing that, it's really a passion for her and something she really cares about. And she's taught me a lot about that as well. I really didn't know much about coffee until this. I mean, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts when I was like in high school and college, and that was like nothing compared to what I've learned here. I mean, you had a machine that just did everything. I mean, I've learned so much from her about this, and it's just amazing the breadth and the depth of knowledge that she carries of so many things. And they all seem so different, but somehow like she just connects it all.
She's definitely, when I think of Christina, I just think of a free spirit. She is a lover of life, and there's nothing you can talk about that that she would shy away from, whether it's cooking, traveling, reading. I mean, just the beginning of this year, she's like, guess where I'm going this weekend? And we're like, where are you going? She's like, I'm going to London. And I'm like, what the hell? Or it's like, I'm going to go all the way to Texas for a grab and go burger. And that's, in a nutshell, that's Christina. Like, Christina is just someone who, in my opinion, is going to make every minute of her life here on earth count. And you can pass by her and you're going to smell some kind of essential oil, which I love. But she just really cares about herself and her body, her health. She commits herself to everything that she's a part of. And I think it would be safe to say that she's probably employed by like 10 other companies. So sharing Christina can sometimes be challenging, but she is definitely someone that I don't know that we can see ourselves without, because she's a great person. She's an asset to our team.
Yeah. Whew. What I say, man? Definitely Avengers. Yeah, it's interesting. Have you ever heard her play the flute?
I have not heard her play. I have not.
Ooh. Check that out.
John. We just had our social last week. And I was like, did you dye your hair? Because his hair does not look like this right now. It looks much lighter. But John is awesome. He is got a lot of energy, ball of energy. He is hopping around, listening to amazing music. He's writing, he's reading. And right now he very recently, I want to say late last year, enrolled into school. So he really is prioritizing his academic pursuits right now, still very much connected and invested in our company. But he's really great. And he is someone who, when he's really excited about something, he is going to go like at 100 miles an hour, which is really great, because it's very difficult to find people like that are really not just energized, but just willing to just take that and see something through. But he's really awesome. And he is, the days that John is not working at our cafe, people are asking about John. Like, his presence is just very contagious. His smile is infectious, and he's really awesome. And it's an honor to work with him and to learn from him as well. There's definitely experiences, that from what he shared that really helped me just appreciate other young people like John in my life. And it's just a different perspective. So it's really, I've learned a lot from him.
John is always also always working on improving himself, like his self-growth and his journey. And I think that's something everyone is always doing, like, or could be doing throughout their lives, but not everyone is really consciously working towards. And I appreciate not only that he's on that journey and very clear about it, but also that he shows up very vulnerably in times of more intimate conversations that we have amongst the team or at our team meetings, and even just on our social last week, and just like being very real and vulnerable. And that's something I value so much personally in people, and that I really appreciate about him, because I think he really mirrors that for other people who are not as comfortable with that. And he really shows leadership in that way. I mean, a great example of that is he was a part of the TMI project series, and he shared a very vulnerable story on there about some things that he's gone through in his life. And I think it's just tremendous and incredible for people to be vulnerable in that way.
Wow, it's interesting, because it's like, I know everybody, but I don't know everybody. It really is just like a deeper, like, getting not even the full view, because even with this, it's just through the eyes of both of you. So I don't know. Wow,
It's just a different view.
you're way more in depth than.
Yes.
I just have to say something about Kashanta. Kashanta is not this image that is here. We are waiting for us a crop picture of Kashanta. Kashanta is similarly to Christina, is also one of those like founding members or just one of those first employees at the Poughkeepsie Underwear Factory. She too was employed by North River Roasters back when they were roasting and also operating the coffee house when Puff opened back in 2017. But she's really awesome. She moved out of the area, out of Poughkeepsie for some time now. But we are so excited, and we've been connected to Kashanta ever since she left Puff. And it was almost like the timing wasn't right. Kashanta was in a different place. We were in a different place financially or with our team or transition. And then it was like this year, 2020 was a year where we were like, no, we're going to make this work. Kashanta was looking for some additional work and we were needing help again with us growing. And it was really a no-brainer. She knew the space. She knew us. And again, just from a professional capacity, really, or that point. And it was like such an honor just going through the interview process with her and really having her join our team, because she is also like a ball of, she's got like Christina John characteristics where it's like energy and light and love in one. And I don't mean that to sound cliche, like, oh, I'm sending you love and light. I don't mean that. I mean like for real, like her smile is everything and she's amazing and just such a hard worker. And you could just feel it. And she is like, I just want to hug her, but that's not really appropriate. And but no, she's really awesome and she's really sweet, and she is someone who the moment she opens her mouth, I feel like, I don't know, I get blown away all the time. I get so surprised. And she's also like full of wisdom and just amazing experiences, and a great parent, a great employee, an amazing community member. And yeah, I don't know what else I can say about Kashanta except the fact that I really miss her and miss all of our team members. And Kashanta, similarly to Sylvia, they're just waiting to get back to work. So funny, but yeah, Kashanta's really awesome.
Yeah, no, hearing all the stories like back to back to back has, got me thinking of my, it's hard to have a favorite memory, but the one that definitely is ringing the most right now was the Fiesta Friday that I came, and before that, this is hopefully the last question that I'll ask. But it's this thing of why are negative environments looked up upon in the restaurant industry? Like it's normal to be stressed out, and it's just like, what, and especially this thing how most waiters lose their wrist, like their senses in their wrist by carrying all the plates, and how like that is just like, that's just a part of the job. It's like, when you're done, you're gonna have to wear a brace, and that's just that.
Yeah.
And
It's definitely, the restaurant industry is not immune to being exploited by the workforce or the expectation of what that should look like. And there are chefs that are on their feet 15, 20 hours a day, no joke. And they're drugging and smoking and not eating, and that's the reality of it. That's not necessarily what people are being taught when they're being, professionally, academically trained. But we know that.
High suicide rate. There's a high.
Yeah, there's a high.
Drug use for chefs.
Yeah. And, just thinking about even, even if we were just talking about tips, right? Like there's this whole, I just read this article the other day. It wasn't an article actually, but it was like this picture that was shared. And this was in the state of California, but it was like, here is the tip out. Out of 100% of your tips, here is the tip out percentages for your busters, your kitchen, your back of the house. And I was blown away by the thread that followed because so many people were like, they don't deserve 48% of our tips and, yada, 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 but they're serving. And it's like, when a server, waitress, whatever you want to call them, is making less than minimum wage and needing to split their tips, like, let's talk about that. Let's talk about these starvation wages that don't necessarily just exist in the food industry. But it is no surprise that we are, and I say we as being a part of this industry, that we have to, that the norm is, less than minimum wage for waitresses and servers, and that hasn't changed. That we have folks that are, injuring themselves, like you said, whether it's their wrist because they're having, a tray alone is weighing, it weighs a lot. Now add all these plates to it and needing to do that in a time, and in a time that is not really realistic with the load of the work, is unrealistic. And having the back of the house just be people of color, not okay. Having a very successful restaurant and really depending on undocumented individuals to do the work for less than what you're paying other folks that are on the books, that's not okay. So for us, to be, our, yes, Earth, One, and Fuego, we currently have a cafe. We do, we offer catering services, yes. But Earth, One, and Fuego is not a cafe and a catering company. Earth, One, and Fuego is a social enterprise, and our mission says that we train and hire individuals facing barriers to employment. That can be carried out if we were a car wash, if we were a laundry service. That can be carried out in anything we do because our mission will remain the same. The way we carry out that work will look differently, but we will always continue to hire individuals that face barriers to employment and train them. And because we want to show that every single person is capable of working if you give them an opportunity, right? Like, who's to say that because this person has some kind of conviction on their record that they can't work, that they don't deserve an opportunity? I'll never forget, and this is not someone that's reflected on our team page here, I will never forget Jordan. Oh my God, I'll never forget him. But he's City of Poughkeepsie Youth. And when we first opened our doors, this young man, when I say insistent, persistent, he came in that first day asking us if we were hired. And we said we were not hiring at the time because we were not hiring, Lamar. He came in the next day and said, I'll do whatever you need me to do. I said, I'm so sorry, I'm not hiring. He came in the next day while we were closing and said, I need to speak to the manager. And I said, okay, buddy, at this point, I need to hear what you got to say because we're not hiring. And I felt for him because he was my brother, as a teenage parent. He was my cousin. He was my uncle that was deported and didn't have a job. And I say he was because I remembered, I'm like, wait a second. There was a moment where something shifted from me and I'm like, hold on, what's happening here? Because this young man keeps coming back. And it was his record that was stopping him from getting a job anywhere else. But he kept coming back and he's like, I can't imagine. And at the time when I said we weren't hiring is because we could not afford to hire someone. We just couldn't make payroll every 2 weeks and do that. But he didn't give up, Lamar. He didn't give up. And he was like, I need something to do. I just came home. Here are my papers. Look, I'm OSHA trained. Here's what I got. Here's this, here's that. And I'm like, you just came home. This is a 19-year-old man that was convicted as an adult at the age of 15 for a crime that he didn't commit, and now he's released to the public and he can't get a job because he's got this criminal history attached to his name. And you can't, at that moment, of course, I got one of my other crazy ideas and I said, Jen, we got to do something because we need to hire that man, and it's like, and this is the kind of stuff that gets me in trouble, Lamar. But I was like, we need to hire him. And I say trouble because it's, I have a big heart. And I've seen too many of these stories. The narratives are the same. The people may look different, but the narratives are the same. The shades, not necessarily so. They look like me or a little bit darker than me, right? But the story is typically the same. And I said, not on our watch. We're not going to let this 19-year-old person, not on our watch. And we were very honest with him about what we were able to do. And he didn't care. He's like, I don't care if you got 2 hours a day. I just need to work. I want to work. And and we offered him a job. And when I say he went in, he went in. He like stripped the mats off the floor, taught us how to clean them. Like, not saying that we didn't, but like he literally made us watch. Like, here's what I learned when I was locked up, and I did this OSHA training, and you need to put in this chemical first, you know. And I just sat there, and I'm like, okay, look at us learning, look at us growing in this way. And you know what it took? It took us giving that man an opportunity for him to build experience on a resume. To then he got like he ended up getting a job with DPW,
Yeah.
union, right? I think it was a union job. And then he ended up moving to New York City, and he is an entrepreneur. He just became a dad. So if you're seeing this, Jordan, we love you. Congratulations. We'll talk soon. But any events that we've had, he's like, I'm there. If I got to take the bus, if I got to take the train, I'm there. Like, he is so committed. And he came back and he said, I want to thank the both of you for saving my life. And I feel like, wow, what does that even mean for him? I know what the words mean to me, but what does that really mean to him? And I think about people like Jordan, and Jordan is not, he's not the only one. And I feel like every employer out there that needs help, and, you know, just, I'm not saying that everyone will be like him and like the others that we've decided to hire, but we are in positions of power. You know, we are in positions of authority, and sometimes we need to look the other way, because these systems that were created to teach us that this is the way that it has to be, they're not created equal. And when we're in positions of power, as a woman of color, I need to act accordingly. And that means doing what we do unapologetically, because that's what creates change, and that can influence and inform what others can do. And I want to continue to be an agent of change and model the behaviors that I want to see in my world and in my community. And by making the decisions that we did and some of the sacrifices that we made to be able to afford to hire Jordan, we're so much better because of it. And yeah, shit was rough. It was hard, but it was so worth it. And we'll do it again and again. And I remember Jordan, Mary Ellen from the Artifact came down one day and was like, oh my God, like, they knew him because he was like a program participant, and it was like, wow, how everything comes full circle. And that was a place of home for him. And there are times when he comes up from the city and he's in town, he comes to Earth, Wind, and Fuego. And he's eating the food and he's showing the love, and he'll say, do you want me to help you mop and clean? And we're like, no, it's fine. But why do I share that? Because that's who he is, and he's not expecting anything for it, you know. But he's always said that to us, and we believe it. Whatever it is that you need, if I'm there for you, I'll be there, you know. And that means there's no value that I can put on that, because I can't, you know, it's invaluable. And it's just amazing how you can change and impact someone's life for the better just by doing the right thing.
Oh, and that story really is Earth, Wind, and Fuego. In a complete nutshell. Just like the core values. I don't have anything to say after that. That was an amazing note. Wow. Yeah.
Thank you, Lamar.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your words. And yeah, that was whew.
And thank you for, you know, we've been working together in a very different capacity since December of last year, but just really thank you for showing up yourself unapologetically, authentically yourself, for continuing to, you know, keep your eyes open, your ears open, and just really using your space, your voice, your lens to share stories like ours, and to really work with us so closely, so that we can continue to raise awareness about what it is that we do and how we do that. So thank you for your openness and working with us. And you know, your fam, and we love you too.
Yes, definitely. I will mop and clean.
Yes, I prefer you behind the camera, but we know you're down. If we need you, we know you're down.
Yeah. Shout out your Instagram, shout out your Facebook, any social media. What can people do right this second?
Yeah, we're on Facebook and Instagram at Earth, Wind, Fuego. Follow us, like us. Please share, invite other people. If you're not in Poughkeepsie, there's people you know who are or who work here. Whatever it is, we do. We do catering. So we do catering for private events. We do consulting services for businesses. So if any of that to help them kind of implement this model as well. We do trainings on trauma and other issues related to mental health and to help organizations improve the overall wellness of their company. So if there's any of that sounds interesting to you, check out our website, www.earthwindfuego.com, and reach out to us to learn more.
Yeah, and stay tuned. We will be launching our meal prep service, which we spoke about earlier during this interview. We're still going to be moving forward with our Pay It Forward initiative. And instead of paying it forward for the board, what we're going to be doing is actually anything that is paid forward for our company, we're going to be donating to a cause in the community, whether that be Community Matters 2, Hudson River Housing, some of their shelter sites, whatever the cause may be. But we are still here. We're coming back to Puff. And wherever we go, we're bringing the fuego. So just continue to support. And if you're wanting to support our business by purchasing a gift card to use later on, you're also able to do that. And the link is also on our website. And we have some merchandise that we should have in stock by the end of this month. So some new t-shirts, really elevating our message and our voice now as times continue to enforce what that is. So just stay connected.
Yes, yes. And thank you for sharing the words.
Thank you, Lamar. We'll talk soon.
That's it for this episode.